All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're exploring the world of Radiohead. Got a really interesting article sent in about them. Wants to go deeper than Creep.
Yeah, Creep. It's a gateway, really. There is a whole universe of Radiohead beyond that one song.
Right, exactly. So let's unpack this. Before Radiohead, they were, what was it? On a Friday. They didn't just appear out of nowhere, did they?
No, not at all. Picture this. Late 80s, Oxford, England, bunch of students, same all-boys school, Tom York, Johnny and Colin Greenwood, Ed O'Brien, Phil Selway. On a Friday starts right there, amidst the books and exams.
Wow, finding their sound between studying Shakespeare and physics. Kind of fitting though, right? They're known for being pretty deep, lyrically. Those Friday practices, those must have been an escape from all that academia.
Absolutely, a creative outlet. You can hear early influences, big stadium rock like U2, but there's this rawness, this angst, especially in Tom York's voice.
Which might explain the Creep phenomenon, right? It's like everyone's felt like they don't fit in at some point. That song just nailed it.
Totally. But here's the kicker. Before Creep blew up, the British music press, the guys who were supposed to discover these bands, they ignored Radiohead completely.
Seriously, they missed that, even with all that talent.
Dead serious. Can you imagine? This is the same music scene that embraced so many iconic bands, and they just overlooked Radiohead. It wasn't until Creep went global in '92 that anyone paid attention.
It's almost like they were too different, too new, too innovative for the industry to understand at first. I can see how Creep being such a hit, it's got to be a mixed blessing. Like, you get the recognition, but then you're stuck with that one-hit wonder label. What was the pressure like for them?
Intense. Suddenly everything's compared to Creep. The music industry, they're all about the next big thing, right? So there's this immense pressure on Radiohead to just replicate it. Give the people what they want, even if it means being creatively stifled.
Like being trapped, expected to churn out the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So what did they do? Did they cave?
They pushed back. Oh, yeah, they did. They didn't take the easy road. Not Radiohead. They could have just tried to make Creep Part 2, 3, 4. But instead, they went and made the Bends.
And the Bends was like a whole other animal, right? It felt like they were making a statement. We're not a one-trick pony. What did the critics say back then?
Oh, they saw it. With the Bends, you could hear the growth. Critics were praising its depth, the maturity in the music. Experimentation was all over it, pushing boundaries. Those themes, like uncertainty, disillusionment, really resonated, especially with younger people back then.
Yeah, Fake Plastic Trees, Street Spirit, those songs just get under your skin, Haunting, but beautiful. So they took all that pressure and turned it into, like, fuel. That's impressive. And then just a few years later, OK Computer. Now that album, that's considered a masterpiece by a lot of people. What makes it so special?
OK Computer, it captures this anxiety, right? Like the world's on the edge of this massive tech revolution. Late 90s, the internet's becoming a thing. Radiohead, they tapped into this feeling of too much, too much information, too much tech, everything changing so fast.
Yeah, it's almost eerie how they did that. Like, they gave voice to something that people were feeling but couldn't really articulate. And musically, his album's all over the place in a good way.
Exactly. You've got these big, sweeping songs like Let Down, which is all about feeling numb in this modern world. And then, bam, you're hit with Paranoid Android, this crazy 6-minute epic that goes from jazz to, like, explosions of rock.
It's a trip, that's for sure. So speaking of sonic adventures, how do we even start talking about Kid A? It's like they took everything from OK Computer and just flipped the script.
Picture this, the year 2000. Out of nowhere, Radiohead, the kings of alt-rock anthems, drop an album with almost no guitars on it. That was Kid A. Total curveball, electronic music, those krautrock rhythms, even stuff inspired by classical composers like Krzysztof Penderecki. Wild.
That's incredibly bold. I mean, they were huge at that point. What did the fans think?
Oh, it divided people, for sure. Some folks, they loved the audacity, the experimentation. Others, they were lost. They wanted that old Radiohead sound, the one they knew. But Kid A demanded your attention. It was like, this is us now. Deal with it.
You got to respect that, though, right? Risking it all, potentially alienating fans, just to explore something new. They could have played it safe, but they didn't.
That's Radiohead in a nutshell. Never confined by what people expected, by genre, by anything. Each album, it's a journey, reflecting how they're changing as artists.
And speaking of journeys, how they released In Rainbows back in 2007, that was revolutionary. Tell me about this whole pay what you want thing.
Nobody had done that before. It was unheard of. They basically said bye to the traditional music industry, put In Rainbows online, their website, direct download. Fans decided what the album was worth to them. Some even got it for free.
Wow. That's trusting your audience big time. Did it work? Financially, I mean.
They never said exactly, but the word is, it was a success. Some reports even say they made more money this way than with their previous album through the normal channels.
That says a lot about their fans and how forward-thinking Radiohead was. Clearly, they wanted to do things their own way. The music, connecting with the people who listen. It's amazing how they paved the way for other artists to try new ways of getting their music out there.
Absolutely. Radiohead's impact, it goes beyond just the music itself. They made a lot of artists rethink things, how to be creative, how to share their work.
It's really something how they've stayed so innovative musically, but also stayed true to their vision. So after In Rainbows, did they ever, slow
For
down?
them, not Radiohead. They're like, hold my beer, we're just getting started. Take The King of Limbs, 2011. That one's a deep dive into rhythm, man. Lots of polyrhythms.
Polyrhythms, I'm not sure.
Multiple rhythms all happening at once, layered on top of each other. It's this intricate, kind of hypnotic sound.
Ah, okay, I get it. So they went even further down the experimental rabbit hole. Was it still about technology, or did they explore something new?
The King of Limbs, it's almost like a U-turn back to nature. The title itself, it's this ancient tree in England. And the music, it's grounded, earthy, like they were exploring all this sonic craziness, but also yearning for something primal, timeless.
Interesting. They're good at creating these moods, these atmospheres with their music. And they didn't stop there, did they? They kept evolving, adding new elements to their sound.
Right. A moon-shaped pool? That one's fascinating. You hear the orchestral stuff, the electronic textures they've been playing with, but there's this new calmness to it, a spaciousness. It's like they finally figured out how to blend everything seamlessly. It's still so distinctly Radiohead.
They spent years building up this sonic toolbox, and now they're masters at using it. It's familiar, but always fresh somehow.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Through all these changes, it's always Radiohead. There's this atmosphere, this emotional depth, no matter what sounds they're using.
It's true. It's like they tap into something universal, something we all feel deep down. They make you think, they make you feel, they make you question things.
That's the mark of true art, don't you think? It stays with you, makes you see the world differently.
Absolutely. So after this deep dive into Radiohead, where does that leave our listeners? What should they take away from this journey?
Radiohead's story, it's about integrity, about sticking to your vision, even when it takes you to unexpected places. They weren't afraid to experiment, to evolve, to challenge the norms, and that's inspiring not just for musicians, but for anyone who wants to create something new.
It's a good reminder to you now. The best art, it comes from embracing the unknown, from pushing boundaries, finding new ways to express yourself, to connect with people. So to everyone listening, go explore Radiohead's music, but do it with open ears and open mind. Get lost in the sound, let yourself feel it all, and find your own meaning in it. Because the best musical journeys, they're the ones we take on our own terms.